go forward and make another documentary, would I make a deal with people saying, oh, if this film makes money, you'll be paid? I don't know if I would, because I feel like if you do that, it's almost dishonest, because usually documentaries don't make any money. And so if you sort of said that, oh, we're going to make a deal and you'll be paid, it's almost like promising something that's not likely to come through. And I think we could have a big conversation about whether or not anybody who writes a biography, a newspaper article, a book, a documentary, if the people who show up and are in that film deserve to be paid. We could have a conversation about that. And I'm happy to have that conversation. I'm not happy to have Paris is Burning put forward as like it's a separate thing. It's part of the system where the way documentaries are made is that they're very hard to make, it's hard to get the money, and the people agree by signing a document, they agree to participate. And you can opt out, as some people did, or you can participate. And when we shot a ball, there was always, we either got releases from everybody, or there was a sign saying, this is being filmed. And that happens any time anybody makes a documentary at an event. They'll put a sign forward. So that's what happened. And I think, part of the issue, there are two things, is that it is problematic. It's problematic that somebody makes the film and a company sells the film and people are in a documentary, including me being in documentaries, including anyone who's ever been in a documentary. So I think that's part of the problem. And I think part of the problem at the time is that people think when a documentary does well, it's like a Hollywood movie, where a lot of people make a lot of money. And it's hard to make them, and it's just not the same.
Wow.
So,
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could talk about this for 2 hours.
I have some personal questions real quick. Did anybody ask you any questions at these balls in Harlem in the 80s?
Which questions? Like what
Did
kinds
anybody
of questions?
ask you any type of questions when you decided to start, filming for Paris is Burning? Did anybody ask you any questions? Did anybody try to stop you at any time?
Oh, you mean like ask me why I was doing it, or
yes,
try and...
Yes, like basically against you. Like, was anybody trying, to...
No.
Did anybody ask you any
I...
questions? Did anybody try to stop you from doing your documentary?
Not at all. I would say that everything was on an individual basis. Like, say there was one ball we were going to film, and then they decided, oh, we don't want you to film this ball. But the people we were working with, I mean, there were a lot of questions asked because basically I had relationships with people that I was filming. I mean, I spent 2 years talking to people before most of the film was shot, right? Because I started going to balls in '85. Most of the film was shot in the summer of '87. So, I was hanging out with people, talking to people, asking them, interviewing them, long before we had a crew, for the most part, except that one Paris is Burning ball in '86. So people had a lot of questions. Who are you? Why are you doing this?
Right.
I shared a lot of stories with people as they were sharing stories with me. And so there was a sense that, I think sometimes when people talk about that, oh, people were exploited, and I felt like that's very insulting to the people that I knew, because I don't think any of the people I talked to or interviewed were stupid people. They were street-smart people, largely educated people, certainly not, I just don't think I could have spent 2 years with people and that their judgment that I should have made the film, I don't think it should be questioned,
right,
because they made decisions. And like I said, everybody did. Avis didn't want to do it. Junior didn't want to be, filmed on camera, but he was happy with having his ballroom stuff in the film. Same with Paris Dupree. And I just think, people have to make their decisions. Some people would love to be in a documentary. Other people don't want to. It was about relationships, one-on-one. People liked me. They trusted me. They thought it was worth their time, and they thought it was worth taking the risk. And it's interesting, because when the film came out, whatever happened with people feeling like, Was there money? Should I have gotten more money? And people may challenge this. Your listeners may challenge this or not challenge this. What's interesting is no one ever said, not what's interesting, but what makes me happy, no one ever said the film, well, not no one, but the people who are in the film never said the film is disrespectful. The film shows me in a way I don't want to be shown. The film is exploitative of the ball community. People really felt a lot of joy about seeing themselves in the film and about how the film portrayed the ball community in general. I can't obviously speak for every single person,
Right.
but that was
Right.
that's been the general feeling about it, and I'm glad, because the whole point was for people to feel to get something positive from seeing their community and seeing themselves. And again, those were relationships that were built for 2 years. And I think if you're going to make any film, about people about people from a community that you're learning about your own family, you have to build a kind of trust about the filmmaking where people see you and they talk to you and they feel not only is it going to be worth their time, that they can trust what you're doing. And that's a delicate thing. It's very scary because I've been in documentaries, I've been interviewed for a lot of things. A guy wrote a whole book about Paris is Burning, a scholar out in California, and he interviewed me a lot. I spent a lot of time letting him know facts. I went over his manuscript. Obviously, none of it I would speak for. I did it because I was glad he wanted to tell the story of my film, and I wanted to help him. And I think ultimately, documentary, if you're in a dramatic film, you're in that film because you want a role, you maybe want another acting job. Sometimes, if it's a bigger film, you get a paycheck. If you're in a documentary, you're in it because you have a story to tell, and you think it's worth your time, and you trust that person, and if there's money, maybe you'll get some. Usually there isn't, and usually you won't. You're in it because there's a story to tell, and you like that person. And that was the truth of that time. People wanted to do it because they wanted to tell their stories. There wasn't anybody else doing it, and I came along, and I had relationships with people, which were great. There's the filmmaking, and there's the film you can see. There's the outtakes that are at UCLA, and which scholars can see. And then there's the experiences that I had, getting to know people, and that people had getting to know me. And those were, that you don't see, but that was wonderful, and I'm grateful that I got to hang out and play Scrabble with Dorian and watch Willie rehearse as a dancer with his dancers for hours and hours, and hang out on the pier and see, that era of gay people hanging out on the pier. Those were all life experiences, which not only I made a film, but they formed me as a queer person, as a young person, as a young filmmaker. It's when you do something like what you're doing now with your radio show, you're presenting something for the world to experience, but you're having experiences and you're learning yourself, and that's I think why one reason why you make things, to transform your own self.
Totally agree with you. Now, was anyone with you during the filming of Paris is Burning?
Was anyone
with you during the filming of Paris is Burning?
You mean my crew?
Yes. Because you said you had cameras and a light crew as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So like I said, back in the day of film, you couldn't do it yourself. I mean, there were a couple filmmakers who managed to have rigs where they'd have a big camera and then they'd have a mic sticking out of the camera, but that was really awkward and really hard to do technically. So there was always a director of photography, that is to say, camera person, always an assistant camera, always a sound person. And then when we were shooting interviews, we tried to just keep it simple and just have it be me, the sound person, and the camera person. And then there was an assistant camera who had to help load the camera, because, again, these are big cameras that require film magazines to be loaded. And there was usually, like, a producer, helping to drive the van, and, and the assistant camera would help to set up the lights and load the camera. And then there was usually, like, a production assistant, just carrying things. And so we had a little crew. I mean, that's not a huge crew, but you couldn't have a much smaller crew in the days of film, because just technically you needed to load the camera and set up the lights, and
Right, it was required.
the sound person had to hold a boom, and you couldn't really in that moment of time conceive of an era when you just have like some tiny little camera that would do everything. Like, that just wasn't happening way back in 1987.
Wow. That's right. Now, before Paris Dupree passed away, at a latex ball in New York City, you spoke on his behalf. How did the people receive you at this latex ball?
I think you have to ask them. I don't know. I mean, I said a few words, but mostly what I did was I showed a little video that I made just to a song, and I don't know how they received me. I don't really. Were you there?
No, I was not there.
No, I don't remember. I mean, I think I was just showing my thing and paying my respects, and then I saw Junior, whom I haven't seen in a while, and then I watched the ball. So I don't know, but I hope they liked what I showed. It was tiny. I mean, it was like a piece to a song, and I said a word and then watched the ball.
Okay. Tell us about meeting Joan Rivers and being on national television with the cast of Paris is Burning.
Oh, well, Joan Rivers, and, we did a couple of big shows. There was Joan Rivers, and there was Phil Donahue. I mean, I was shocked to see it on YouTube, a couple of years ago. Someone was like, "You're on YouTube on Joan Rivers," and I watched it, and, I thought she did a great job. I thought she was really respectful. I loved I never saw that show back in the day, right? Because no one gave me a tape of it or anything. I just did it. I just went on and did it, and then it was over. And so it's fun to see it on YouTube. I love to look at that and to see what I think it was it Dorian and Pepper and Willie, and I don't know. I have to call it up and look. I forget whom else, but it was wonderful. I mean, I thought she was surprisingly not homophobic, open. I thought people had a lot to say. I don't know. I mean, it was a whirlwind.
It was
I was
very
really
fun
young.
and energetic episode for me. It was
Yeah.
very classic.
Yeah. I don't like
Beautiful,
my hairstyle,
iconic.
but other than that.
Wow. Okay, once again, so at no moment in time you felt harassed or from the ballroom, and did anybody ever try to stop you or once again question you, or you know what I mean?
Nope.
At
Nope.
all.
No, not at all. I was always encouraged. I mean, there were, again, individuals who said, "I don't want to be in the shot. I don't want to be interviewed," which is going to happen with any documentary. No, I felt quite the opposite. I felt embraced, encouraged. I think people, look, this is not a secret. It's not like it's a secret society. You're trying to uncover. These are public balls where people are performers. And so we came in and said, we think your performance is worthy of being seen. And most people were very thrilled about that. Plus, I picked the people who were, I'm not going to say the best talkers because I didn't know everybody in the ball world, but certainly some of the best talkers. And I said, you're a talker, I want to hear you talk. And people were thrilled. So I think nobody said, you ought to do this, you shouldn't do this because of X, Y, and Z. No one said it. And the only thing people said was, oh, I don't want you to film my ball, or I don't personally want to be interviewed. Wow. There was one guy, I'll tell you a story though, we were following him, and he was a young kid, Paul Walker, and he was ROTC. Do you know what that means?
No.